Nonprofit professionals, have you thought about using gift cards? They're especially helpful this time of year. Think holiday gifts for the whole team, year end bonuses, and even direct support to families in need around the holidays. Charity Charge has a free gift card program just for nonprofits with no sign-up fees or ordering minimums. Text or email a digital card for face value, no extra cost, or ship a physical card if you prefer. Let our team support your year end projects and save money on your gifting. Visit charitycharge.com to learn more and beat the holiday rush. Now, on to the episode. Thanks for tuning in. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Nonprofit Spotlight series hosted by Charity Charge. This is Grayson Harris, and today we are pleased to be joined by Matt Tanner. He is the Executive Director of United Against Poverty of the Indian River County. Matt, thank you so much for taking some time to talk to us today.
Oh, excited to be here, Grayson. Thanks, man.
I would love if you could tell us a little bit more about what the mission is and kind of your approach and methodology to, tackling this diverse
Yeah.
challenge.
Yeah. So, United Against Poverty, this year we celebrated 23 years as a nonprofit organization here in Florida, where the needs are certainly great.
Got
Started
it.
between a husband wife duo, our founders, who really recognized that for a lot of individuals and families in particular that were struggling with food insecurity, food banks were playing a pivotal role, but it wasn't necessarily helping a lot of those individuals get into a situation where they weren't dependent on that system. And so,
Got it.
how could we flip the model on its head a little bit, have the individuals that are dealing with food insecurity get a chance to get connected to an organization where they had some skin in the game, and really it was operating as a hand up and not a handout. And so that was the launch of United Against Poverty. That was the launch of our primary program here, which is the member share grocery program. And it has since expanded. We're now, 20 years later in a 46,000 square foot facility here in Vero Beach, Florida. And we get roughly 750 adults from the community that come in here every day for our grocery, for our crisis, for our workforce programs. And we also have some collaborative partners that operate out of this space.
That is amazing. I really appreciate, you sharing that. And before we fully dive into that, I do want to set the context that we're currently in, right? We have the government shutdown that
Mhm.
impacted the community you serve greatly.
Yes.
Could you share a little bit more about what that looked like and how that's impacted the community you serve and kind of some of the stuff they all are doing to address that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, the reality is who was impacted in terms of government shutdown as it relates to SNAP benefits being frozen is 100% the demographic that we serve here. So I think it was a little bit easier for us to understand how we could be agile, how we could adapt into that space. We knew who our demographic was. Fortunately, a lot of them know that we're here as a resource. But as we were doing our research and looking at, the ripple effects, and obviously there was just a tremendous amount of uncertainty
Mm.
around how long the shutdown would last. If there was talk around a 50% renewal for SNAP, and then it was 65, and there was a lot of challenges in court. At the end of the day, who was being impacted was the recipient families, and not knowing whether their EBT cards would get loaded and they would be in a position to continue to take care of themselves and their families. So we knew we needed to do something. We've got an incredible community here in Vero Beach. It's a small town on the east
Yeah.
coast of Florida, a little bit less than 170,000 residents, but we have some tremendous philanthropy and some tremendous nonprofit organizations. So when we got to that place where it was pretty apparent that the shutdown was going to go into effect on November 1st, we had some conversations leading up to that and said, if and when this happens, how do we want to respond? And so we launched an initiative called the SNAP Support Initiative, Bridging the Gap, where if we had individuals, and I think we certainly learned a little bit about the SNAP process here as an organization as well to become more subject matter experts. But when you're qualified, something that's important for folks to know is not everybody gets the same amount. Not everybody gets their payment on the
Yeah.
same day of the month. You have a designated week in each month where you receive your food stamp support, your SNAP
Yep.
support. That amount is tied to a lot of different things, household size, income, and your verification letter will show all of that information. And so for us, what we launched on Monday the 3rd was for anybody that, can show verification and their benefits show the amount and shows that they receive benefits traditionally in the first week of the month, that we would provide 30% of that benefit in the form of vouchers right into our grocery program. The way that our grocery program works, Grayson, is that anybody that is at or below 300% of the federal poverty level automatically qualifies for
Yep.
free membership. There is a handling fee on all the items. It operates just like a grocery store, but traditionally you're going to see about a 70% discount on all items in there. Your milk, eggs, protein, produce, household
Understood.
essentials, right? All those key elements that families need. So again, not in a position financially to offer everybody in our community the full
Yeah.
benefit that was lost during these last 2 weeks, but a little bit of support to tide them over until we had some resolution, which fortunately, as of this morning in Florida, those EBT funds were restored. So, all told, in 10 days, we were able to work with 372 households. That was $152,000 in SNAP
Wow.
benefits that had been frozen during
And for
that time.
context, that's that 30%, or that $152,000 would be the
No,
total amount for your community.
that's the total amount of SNAP benefits that were not distributed to those
Understood. So
households.
y'all were able to then support, about 50,000, 60,000 in
It was
terms of
47
vouchers.
47,000 and some change. Yes.
Wow, that's incredible. I really appreciate that context. And you mentioned this 300%, above the poverty line. Can
Yeah.
you put some numbers to paper for, and give that
Yeah.
context to our audience listening in?
Yeah. I think this is critical to live in these data points. I mean, it's one thing to look at data on paper, it's another to understand the reality of what so many families are experiencing across our country right now, just in terms of affordability and cost of
Yeah,
living.
it's the
So,
number one crisis.
100%, man. And, so historically, our organization has always been the financial milestone, the requirement to be an eligible member of our grocery program was 200% above the federal poverty level, right? That's
Yep.
set by the government annually. For example, a family of four this year, that's roughly a household income of about $65,000. Okay.
And
Now,
that's the poverty level
that's
set for.
200% above the poverty level.
Understood.
Yeah, and you'll
Understood.
you'll see you'll see a lot of other social support programs that use that same 200%.
Yeah.
SNAP is another one here in the state of Florida. It's that 200% mark. You look at a lot of free and reduced lunch programs within school districts.
Yeah.
They're operating under a similar milestone. What we have looked at and what has been an incredible asset for our community is the United Way's ALICE report. ALICE. It's an acronym that
Yeah.
stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed. This is a phenomenal tool that really looks at a lot of different census information, the demographics and data that will essentially show for each individual county within the state of Florida. And there's a lot of states that
Yeah.
work with United Way on this. What is the survival budget, right? If I'm a family of four, what do I need to make as household income to cover down on those key essentials like housing, rent, food, transportation, healthcare, childcare, right? All the big ticket items that we need to survive and keep our head above water.
And
For a
that's
family of
probably
four,
over 65, I can imagine,
it's
right?
over
It's
it's
over
over it's over
65,000.
90, Grayson.
Wow.
That's over 90, and
Yeah.
so, we are beta testing this year. We shifted our marker from 200 to 300%. And I think this is just a reality of the times we're living in. I think you look at an organization named United Against Poverty, and I think there's a lot of families that would be in that 90,000 threshold. I would assume that's not intended for me, but it really is. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not just to lift people out of poverty. We're also working to make sure that folks can find that sustainable economic self-sufficiency. And if we can keep folks in their homes with cost of living rising by offering 70% discount on groceries, by
Yeah.
maybe connecting them to better jobs with better pay, then we're meeting our mission.
That is incredible. And something that I think is so unique to your approach is, giving the agency to the community that you serve, in the sense of that it is, the feel whenever you walk into, the grocery store. It's gonna feel just like a normal experience, correct? Can you speak more to that?
I think a lot of organizations obviously spend a good amount of time developing core values, right? Words that you can put up on the wall or have displayed on a fancy website, but you really got to live those values. And I think you hit on it right there. For a lot of folks that are in situations where they're experiencing food insecurity or experiencing homelessness or domestic violence or unemployment or mental health, substance misuse, a lot of the traditional channels and social service support isn't necessarily wrapped up in a dignified experience, right? You may feel like a cog in the wheel, just a number in the system. It's supposed to feel, and really does in a lot of ways, feel completely different here, where we're open 7 days a week. It looks and operates just like a traditional grocery store. There's a lot of selectivity. You can come in here 20 times a day if you want to. We have a lot of special dietary items. Again, there's not usually a lot of selectivity in the traditional food bank
Yeah,
experience
you
and
kind of
model.
get what is given.
You get what you get, whether you have allergies, your kids don't eat this particular stuff. I know for me and my kids, man, if macaroni and cheese and spaghetti's not in there, then it's going to be a rough week for me. So here's an opportunity to come in, bring your kids. They won't know any different. I'm just going to the grocery store with mom and dad, and that's important for us to have that dignity and respect at the core of what we do.
But, the challenges that come with that, right, is that you're taking on the cost that comes with running a traditional grocery store. So can you speak a little bit more to how y'all approach that within the organization in terms
Yeah.
of how you create that subsidies and you're creating these sustainable growth for the
Yeah.
organization?
Partnerships is the key part of it, Grayson. We've got a
Yeah.
small but mighty team here, a procurement team that literally is working a national network of suppliers and partners. What we have on the shelves and in our coolers and refrigerators here is not, folks here in the local community digging into the back of their pantry to bring stuff into us. We're not accepting those types of donations. These are from major partners that are bringing in
Yeah.
18 wheelers full of the material that we need. And really, a lot of it is, painting the picture of how we're different and
Mhm.
how the grocery program can be a draw for a lot of people in our community that are experiencing hardships. But by coming here, they're getting introduced to a lot of other programs and systems to get them to self sufficiency so they don't have to become reliant on what we're offering. I think that message resonates with a lot of partners. We're very consistent in our communication. We're committed to our pickup. So, we're in 13 states across the US right now, over 150 product partners. We've got a separate distribution center here in Vero Beach that receives all of that product. And then we're looking at different grocery stores for their pricing models and then having that
Yeah.
commitment to mark it down 70%. Again, there is a handling fee. So there's no handouts here. So that does generate some revenue for the program, which
Yep.
helps us offset cost. Obviously, whatever we're not getting donated that we need, we're making purchases in bulk. That's not inexpensive to do that, certainly. So it's our responsibility to continue to drive awareness, to bring more members in. I mean, over the last 5 years, we were looking at this number the other day. 2021, we had about 5,700 households from Indian River County that came in as members and utilized the program. This year, we're on pace to eclipse 20,000. So we're
Wow.
growing. We're growing in the
4x.
right direction. More people are learning about us, and that certainly supports us, and in turn supports more folks in our community.
That's incredible, right? So you have this earned revenue that also comes from the grocery store with the discount, and then of course reducing costs at any way you can in terms of creating these amazing partnerships. I'm sure there is still a piece of that puzzle though that is going to come from donations and community support. What does that look like, and how is communicating with that local community and nurturing these donor relationships look like?
Well, again, I honestly feel like if you're chasing funding to build your programs or build your mission, you're kind of going about it in a reverse order and you can lose yourself real quickly. I think if you're deeply connected to your purpose and your mission and your programs, you're deeply connected to and having your finger on the pulse of what are the challenges of your community, the funding will follow, right? Because people will recognize that you're stepping up and addressing those barriers.
The needs.
And this year in particular, food insecurity has been one of those. We've had a lot of different forums. Our local hospital has gotten involved in this space. The SNAP initiative you and I just spoke about caught on with some local publications and our closest news affiliate in West Palm. And, we had people just walking in and taking $100 bills out of their wallet saying, I just believe in what you guys are doing. I support you, all the way up to, a major funder contributing a six-figure gift here last week to continue to
Wow.
do what we're doing. So again, it's our job as an organization to quantify the challenge that we're seeing in the community and make sure that we've got great stories, great images, and great impact data that we can demonstrate to our donors that says we are addressing this challenge and we're uniquely qualified and positioned to do it. It's not inexpensive if we want to continue to do it well and do more of it. And again, not be afraid to make those asks. People want to support these types of causes.
Appreciate that answer a lot. And I think it's nerve wracking, right? Taking that approach because there's some unknowns that go into it, and leading in value and your mission and community first. I agree. I think it's the right approach, but I'm sure there's some days and weeks where it's like, man, it's a little bit scary. Huh?
Absolutely. I mean, that wild growth in our grocery program is applicable across the board to all of our programs here over the last 5 years. And something we consistently talk about is when you start as a smaller program and you're beta testing and you're making modifications and you kind of find a process and a procedure that really works,
Yeah,
and now your data starts to back it up and shows that this is a proven program. You want to grow that program, but in order to do it, you don't want to have the quality of the delivery of that program suffer. So
yep.
if I had
The
five
challenges of
staff
scaling.
executing the program and now I've
Yep.
tripled the amount of adults going through, well, I need to grow my staff and my infrastructure to be able to continue to provide quality. And again, I think we communicate that effectively. I think we live in our data. You got to have some great stories and human interest, but you have to have real data. A lot of our donors are very sophisticated. They want to see the return on their investment, and I think we've done a strong job of that, and that's allowed us to maintain that quality while we're expanding quantity.
Piece of your program that we haven't touched on that much is this kind of job assistance
Hmm.
and workforce readiness component.
Yeah.
And can you explain a little bit more into how that incorporates into this hand up methodology that y'all have there?
Yeah, absolutely. So, 7 years ago, we launched our first workforce program, the Success Training Employment Program, more commonly known as STEP in our community. This is not one where, similar to our grocery program, you have to sit down and fill out an application that shows your household income. The program is designed for adults that have some barriers to the world of work. And so we're kind of uniquely positioned here where, yes, no matter what community you go into, you're probably going to find some level of a career development training program through a local college. Some high schools have that built in. The difference for us is, our willingness to work with adults who maybe wouldn't be afforded an opportunity into those programs elsewhere. They're free of charge. We offer free transportation for adults that are transportation burdened to get into the programs. And then again, the barriers we're traditionally seeing are in and out of homelessness, on the road to recovery from substance misuse, lack of GED or high school diploma, maybe
Yeah.
former incarceration, and in a lot of cases, all the above. And, no real track record of work experience to show for. So it's a three-phase program. Our staff really wraps our arms around all the adults that come through. A big part of our curriculum focuses on emotional intelligence. So yes, we are.
Those foundational skills.
Yeah, I'm sitting in our career lab right now. Yes, we talk about resume writing and job search techniques and how to prepare and execute an interview, but we're really spending a lot of time getting to know yourself, getting in touch with
Yeah.
yourself, understanding what you want for your future, your self esteem, those values that you have for yourself, and understanding once you get on the job, how you keep that job. So our focus isn't just getting folks into work. It's that job retention. Last year we had 120 adults that became successfully employed, and we are on
Wow.
pace. We're on pace to exceed that this year.
That is incredible.
One of our graduates, Grace, and another thing that differentiates us is they're connected to a success coach. And so if I went through our program and I got employed, and most programs say, "Hey, congratulations, best of luck moving forward." 2 weeks down the road, my
Ah,
car breaks down, I have a fight
yeah.
with my spouse, I get into a conflict with a colleague or a manager, and maybe my old instinct was just to pick up my ball and run home, and now I'm back in the same position I was. Now you're assigned to a success coach for a full year post-employment. It's somebody you've built a relationship with here on staff, that's working on those personal and professional goals, that financial literacy, and just, again,
Yeah.
someone you can lean on when you're struggling to make sure that you're keeping the main thing, which is staying retained at your place of employment.
And then what do the stats look like then in terms of that are in terms of retaining the jobs of that 120? How many are staying in that position long term?
Yeah, we're trying to benchmark that across national averages, regional averages. You'll see some variance depending on industry,
Of course.
but right now we're operating in the 65 to 70% range, which is fantastic.
Yeah, especially with some of the economical challenges across the nation right now. I mean, that's amazing. I love that.
Agreed. It's
Yeah.
great to have a support system around you. I think for most of us that do have a fantastic support system, it's one of those things that we take for granted. When you don't
Yeah.
have, folks that really have your back,
Even someone to vent to.
wants you
Yeah.
to see someone to vent to. Those are all great benefits of being part of our programs.
I love that. And is there any type of relationship between staffing for the grocery store and that workforce development program?
Yeah. We kind of joke that sometimes we'll poach our best out of the
Your best talent?
programs.
Yeah.
Listen, our intake coordinator, our director of development, individuals that are also in our development team, one of our success coaches here are all graduates. One of our crisis navigators are graduates of the program. I think the program, we often joke the program works so well that a lot of our graduates don't want to leave the building. They only want to work for us. We got to encourage them to spread their wings
Yeah.
and fly the nest. But yes, we do have a lot of former graduates on staff.
I love that, and I'd love to get to what does the future look like, as we come towards the end of the year for,
Yeah.
United Against Poverty, and then what does next year look like as well?
Oh, man, can I just get through this year first, Grayson?
Sure, then
No,
we
I'm
can
just
narrow it
kidding,
in.
I'm just kidding. No, I mean, a timely question. I think most nonprofits are probably in a similar position right now where we're in a period of reflection on how this year has gone for us and, um, what adjustments we need to make, how our budgets look, how we performed versus the budget that we set, what kind of funds we need to raise to keep the mission moving forward and maintain that quality like I talked about. I love the pattern that we're on here. I love the growth trajectory that we've seen over the last 5 years. Again, understanding that we're not doing it alone. We place a ton of value on partnerships. We've just signed 2 new partners to come in and operate here in the Up Center next year. So again, we're not consistently looking at, well, what's the challenge that we're not solving, and let's launch a new program versus, well, who's focused on this and who's doing good work and
Yeah.
how can we align ourselves in partnership to better support the community that all of us are supposed to be serving together. So more of the same, but just better quality and better partnerships to make it manageable for us.
Amazing, and how can our audience get involved with, the organization?
Well, for Indian River County specifically, if they look us up at upirc.org, or if you're just Googling United Against Poverty Florida, and we
Yeah.
have 3 campus locations: Orlando, here in Vero Beach, and south of us in Fort Pierce. So always great volunteer opportunities. We're always looking for employer partners who want to hire our folks. Yeah, plenty of opportunities. So thank you for the opportunity to shout that out.
Of course. Well, Matt, I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing more about your perspectives on running your organization out there in the Indian River County and the incredible work and philosophy towards approaching that challenge as well.
Thank you, Grayson.